Great to see you. How are you? How are you?
I love you, Senator.
Thank you. God bless you.
Love you.
Great to see you, Kathy. Where's Sarah? There she is. Hey, darling.
Love you. Go
Great
get
to see
her.
you. Don't worry. Thank you.
Hey,
You got it.
John, can I get a hug?
You got a hug, darling.
Okay,
I want to hear you up there now.
you see it.
Hey, Pat. Great to see you.
Real
Let's go.
love here. Yes, hi, how are you? Hey.
Great to see you.
Come. Good to see you.
Great to see you, Elaine. You did a fabulous job. I heard you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Man, I knew I'd be glad to get here. I just didn't know how much I'd be glad to get here. I am so proud to be with all of you. Thank you. Thank you for what you do every day. God bless you all. Let me send you first a personal message. Several of you asked as I was coming in how my wife Elizabeth's doing. The good news is Elizabeth's doing great. Absolutely great. And I want to thank these extraordinary leaders who are on the stage with me today. And I want to thank the extraordinary leaders who are throughout this room for what you do and what you've done for such a long time. And I want to thank Elaine. I heard her introduction. I was able to hear it when I was standing backstage. You know, I can still remember so well. I had to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning. It's hard to forget. I remember getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning and going out and having breakfast with her and walking around with her, watching her work, helping her work. I wasn't much of a helper, but I was helping the best I could. Helping her work. It was an extraordinary experience for me, and it was such a wonderful thing to watch. A woman who loved what she did, who'd been doing it for an awful long time, and to see the men and women who depended on her every single day. She was like family to those men and women. They would have no idea what to do when they got up in the morning if Elaine didn't walk into their room. And I will tell you, and her story, going to work every day, being responsible, taking care of the men and women who depended on her every single day for their lives, for her to get the care that they desperately needed. You know, it just reminded me so much of why I'm running for President of the United States. I am running for President of the United States for women just like Elaine, for men and women just like her, all around this country, for the men and women who are just like the men and women that I've grown up with. You know, when I was born, my father, this will sound familiar to some of you, my father had to actually borrow $50 just to get me out of the hospital. Took me home to a 2-room house in the mill village. I grew up in mill towns across the South. I grew up with hard-working men and women. I grew up with people who believe that if you go to work every day and do what's right, your kids ought to have a better life than you have. I grew up with men and women who went to work in the mill every day and dreamed that their children would be able to go to college. My father had that dream. And I am running for President of the United States because I want that dream to be alive and well for every child born in the United States of America, no matter who they are, who their family is, or what the color of their skin. This is the America that all of us believe in. And I got to tell you, I expect a lot of you know this already, I got a little experience with this union too. I've been I won't even try to name all the places I've been. I couldn't do it if I tried. But I have been all over America, walking picket lines, standing in the heat in Miami, working and organizing campaigns, all of the work on behalf of healthcare workers, on behalf of the Justice for Janitors campaign, on behalf of security guards, on behalf of public sector workers. And I did it. And I did it because I believe to my core in what you are doing. I believe it because I don't believe we're going to have a middle class in the United States of America if we don't grow and strengthen the organized labor movement. And I'll just say this very plain and simple. I will be the president who walks out on the White House lawn and first says the word union, talks about the importance of organizing, to strengthening and growing the middle class in America. And I will tell you this, I say it openly in front of the media and the world to hear. I intend to be the best union president in the history of the United States of America. So let's talk a little bit today about the work that we have in front of us. Our health care system is broken. It does not work. We don't even have health care for the health care providers, do we? We have so much work to do on health care. You know, a few weeks ago, I did a poverty tour that began in the 9th Ward of New Orleans and ended up in the Appalachian Mountains. On the last morning, I was sitting at a picnic table with 4 or 5 people. And there was a man sitting with me. His name was James Lowe. He's 51 years old. I'm 54. He's 3 years younger than me. And James told me his life story. This is his story. He was born with a severe cleft palate. Because he had this cleft palate, he couldn't speak. This condition was completely fixable. But James had no health care. And he had no health care coverage. And so he was not able to get the condition fixed until finally, somebody out of the goodness of their heart came along and said, "We'll fix it for you." And he was grateful, and he was humble, and he was noble. But they fixed it when he was 50 years old. James Lowe lived in the United States of America without health care and not able to speak for 50 years because he had no health care coverage. I have a question for you, brothers and sisters. When are we finally going to have a president of the United States that will stand up to the drug companies, the insurance companies, the lobbyists in America that stand between James Lowe and the health care that he deserves, that stand between your people that you take care of and the health care that they deserve? That's what's at stake in this election. Because I know what you know. I know why we don't have health care. I know why we don't have universal health care. We don't have it because of drug companies, insurance companies, and their lobbyists in Washington, D.C. We need a president of the United States who will stand up to those people. And I know there are some good people, some of whom you've heard from today, who have a different view about how we need to do this. Some of them will say, you let the drug companies and insurance companies, you let them have a seat at the table. My view is you give drug companies, insurance companies, and lobbyists a seat at the table, they'll eat all the food. There will be nothing left for America. We have got to stand up to these people. We have got to be willing to fight. It is the only way we're actually going to have universal health care in the United States of America. So what do we need to do? We know what we need to do. What we need to do is have a law requiring that every man and woman in America have health care coverage. We need to ban pre-existing conditions. We need mental health parity. Mental health should be treated exactly the same way that physical health is treated in the United States of America. Preventive care, chronic care, long-term care, all should be covered, 100% covered. Dental care, vision care should be covered. You ought to be able to take your health care with you wherever you go. And we ought to take on these insurance companies and drug companies to bring down costs for everybody in America. Now, I don't claim that my universal health care plan is free. It's not. It costs between $90 and $120 billion a year, but I got a way to pay for it. Let's get rid of George Bush's tax cuts for people who make over $200,000 a year. Health care, not tax cuts for rich Americans. And for all. And for all those who say, how are you going to get this done? How are you going to get the Congress to do it? I got a very simple answer. Here's what I'm going to do. The first day that I'm sworn as President of the United States, I will submit a law that says that every member of Congress, the President of the United States, the Vice President of the United States, and every cabinet member will lose their health care come July of 2009 unless they have passed universal health care for the United States of America. And I don't want to hear any whining about it. I don't want to hear any whining. Listen, I'm perfectly happy to have members of Congress have health care coverage, so long as every man, woman, and child in America also has health care coverage. Now, we got some other specific work that we need to do. I know we got some good nurses in this room. God bless you. We need to ban mandatory overtime for nursing professionals. We need to improve staff-to-patient ratios so that nurses can provide the care, quality care, that their patients are entitled to. We need to have a career ladder so that healthcare workers can rise. We're having to do a little fanning down here in the front. We got a little energy going on here. We need to have a career ladder so that healthcare workers can rise and do better for themselves and their families, so that they can rise to a better job. We need a President of the United States We need a President of the United States who will stand up for long-term care providers and for home health care providers. I was in West Helena, Arkansas, meeting with home health care workers. There's actually some of them were union members that just joined the union, and I heard their stories. They could tell you to the penny how much money they made. $5.50 an hour, $5.75 an hour, $5.83 an hour. And then along comes the United States Supreme Court and says these workers aren't entitled to overtime. They're not entitled to have the minimum wage applied to them. Correct response. When I'm President of the United States, the minimum wage will apply to all these workers, and overtime rules will apply to all these workers. And we're going to organize these workers into unions so that they can actually earn a living wage to support their families. And I'll tell you, I was proud to go to Miami and be with Soila Matienza, who was trying every way she knew how. The first time I met her with two other workers. They were trying every way they knew how to organize a union at the University of Miami. I was proud to go down there when they were on hunger strike. I was proud to stand with Soila. I was proud to march with her. I was proud to speak for her. And I honor her and millions of men and women just like her in the United States of America who are entitled to be treated with dignity and respect and not be stomped on, not be taken advantage of. And for the security guards, I was proud to be in the security guards campaign, but security guards, who are enormously important to keeping this country safe, deserve to get the training that they're entitled to, and they deserve to earn a good enough wage that they can support their families. They deserve to be members of unions, and we have to stand with them to make sure that they can organize, to make sure that they have a voice, to make sure that they can collectively bargain. I've done it, and all of us need to stand with our brothers who are in this profession. And then finally, George Bush, as we all know, has been at war with working people in the United States of America. I will tell you, when I'm President of the United States, there'll be no more of the harassment of the organized labor movement, no more of the LM2s and LM30s and all these things that are being used to harass union organizers. We're going to put a stop to that, and we're going to have a Secretary of Labor who actually believes in organizing, who actually believes in collective bargaining. And when I'm president, we will not, for all the public sector workers, we will not be privatizing and sending your jobs to private companies. We're going to ensure that that work and those jobs are being done in the public sector. I also want to say a word today about immigration. I have a really simple view about this. We are a country of immigrants. I do not want to live in the United States of America made up of first-class citizens and second-class workers. That is not America. That is not who we are. So when I am president, we're going to have comprehensive immigration reform. And we're going to ensure that every single person living in the United States of America has a completely achievable path to American citizenship so that they don't live in the shadows, so that they can become American citizens, so that they can be part of America instead of being treated as second-class workers and second-class human beings. There are no second-class human beings in the United States of America when I'm president. I'll tell you that it is also not okay that we have 37 million people who wake up every single day in America worried about feeding and clothing their children. And it says something about our character, what we're willing to do about it. Now, here's the truth. The greatest anti-poverty movement in American history is the organized labor movement. It is the organized labor movement lifted millions of American families out of poverty. But it says something about who we are as a nation, what we're willing to do about this. This is the cause of my life. Always, it still is, every single day. I believe, as President of the United States, that I have a moral responsibility to do something about the millions of people who live in poverty every day in America. And for all those who say there's nothing we can do, that's the great lie. There's a lot we can do. Some of the things are simple. The Congress finally raised the minimum wage. It went to $7.25 an hour. Great. It's not enough. Minimum wage ought to be at least $9.50 an hour. It ought to be indexed to go up on its own. We need a national predatory lending law to crack down on these predatory and payday lenders that are preying on our most vulnerable families. We need to have more investment in affordable housing. We need to have at least 1 million new Section 8 housing vouchers. Nobody should be living on the streets in the United States of America because they don't have a decent place to live. We're better than that, and all of us can do something about it. And we need to make it easier, not harder, for kids who want to go to college. George Bush has taken billions of dollars out of the federal budget for kids to be able to go to college. This is insanity. My idea is very simple. It's called College for Everyone, where we say to every young person in America, you graduate from high school, qualified to go to college, commit to work at least 10 hours a week, America will pay for your tuition and books. And if we're going to move forward in this country, we've got to end this mess of a war in Iraq. America needs to get out of this war. We need to bring this war to an end. And here's my view about it. I think the Congress was given a responsibility in this last election. In fact, they had a mandate. And that mandate was to force this president to start taking troops out of Iraq. They should not submit a single funding bill to this president that doesn't have a timetable for withdrawal. Bush says he's going to veto it. So be it. Let him veto it. If he vetoes it, they should send him another bill with a timetable for withdrawal. If he vetoes that, they should send him another bill with a timetable for withdrawal. And they should stand their ground until this president is forced to end this war. No, no, no timetable. No timetable, no funding, no more excuses. Now, I want to say a word about something I spoke about very briefly about just a few minutes ago, which is the importance of the organized labor movement. Because here's what I believe. I believe we have 50 million service economy workers in the United States of America. We're going to have 10, 15 million more over the course of the next decade. Whether those families, those millions of families, live in poverty or earn a decent middle-class standard of living depends on whether they're members of unions. Whether they're able to strengthen and grow the middle class depends on whether they're organized. That's what you're doing every single day. We have to change the law, to put it on the side of working men and women, to put it on the side of organizing efforts in America. I've been there. I don't have to read in a book what happens in organizing campaigns. I've seen it. I've seen it firsthand with your union. They violate the law. If anything happens, it's years down the road. They get a slap on the wrist. This has got to change. Here's my view. Very simple. If you can join the Republican Party by signing your name to a card, any worker in America should be able to join a union by doing exactly the same thing. That's democracy in the workplace. That's what we believe in. Not only that, if to show your strength, your solidarity, your courage in standing up for your workers, if it becomes necessary to get a decent wage, to have health care coverage, to have pension protection, if it becomes necessary to go out on strike, when you're walking that picket line, nobody should be able to walk through that picket line and take your job away from you. Not in America when I'm President of the United States. I'm going to bring it down, but only for a minute. Only for a minute. You know, all of you know about some of the challenges that we faced in my own family with Elizabeth. But there came a time a few months ago where I had to decide, and Elizabeth had to decide, in the quiet of a hospital room, after many hours of getting bad news about Elizabeth's health, what we were going to do with our lives. And we made our decision. This is the cause of my life. Standing up for the men and women that you fight for every day is what my life is about. And we're going to devote every minute of our lives to that cause. We've decided what we want to do. I run for President of the United States on behalf of the men and women who worked in the mill with my father. I run for President of the United States on behalf of the families whose lives were devastated when that mill closed and they lost their jobs. I run for President of the United States on behalf of James Lowe, who for 50 years was not able to speak because he had no health care coverage. I run for President of the United States on behalf of Elaine and the millions of people that you represent every single day. It's clear what I'm going to do. The question is, what are you going to do? 40 years ago, 40 years ago, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King gave an historic speech at Riverside Church in Harlem. And he spoke about the war in Vietnam. And he said at that time, the time had finally come when he could no longer stand silent and not speak out against the war in Vietnam. And what he said was, there comes a point in all our lives when silence is betrayal. Silence is a betrayal to ourselves, a betrayal to who we are, and a betrayal to what we believe in. The men and women in this room know what a movement is. You know what it takes to create a movement. The great movements in American history, they started in the streets. They didn't start in the Oval Office. I grew up with the Civil Rights Movement, brothers and sisters. I know where it started. It started in the streets. It started in communities. It started on college campuses where men and women of courage and backbone and passion went out, spoke up, marched, and they changed this country. They did the same thing in marching and speaking up to end the long and bloody war in Vietnam. The same thing happened in bringing down a brutal apartheid regime in South Africa. I can feel that movement today in bringing an end to this war in Iraq. But the truth is this, we need you. We need you every step of the way. I can see I want you. I can see in America. I can see in America where every man, woman, and child has health care. I can see in America where we're no longer at war. I can see in America where no one lives in poverty. I can see in America where working people are organized into unions and they get decent health care, decent wages, pension protection, retirement security, and they're treated with the dignity and respect that they're entitled to. Brothers and sisters, like Dr. King, I can see the promised land. It's there. It's right in front of us. The question is, will we have the courage to go and step there? Will we lead? Will we lead? Will we? And the only thing I ask, and I'm almost done, the only thing that I ask all of you is to trust your heart. Trust your heart. You know what to do. We can see the promised land. We can get there together. I believe. Do you believe? Do you believe? Do you believe? Do you believe? Will you join me? Will you march with me? Will you fight with me for that promised land, for that America that all of us believe in? Brothers and sisters, we can do this together. We can do it together, but I need you, every single one of you. God bless you all. It's my privilege to be with you today. Thank you.